One man, one camcorder, one grainy piece of footage that would hold up a mirror to a nation and force it to see an ugly truth. On the night of March 3rd, 1991, an amateur video didn't just capture a crime, it captured the breaking point of a city and lit the fuse on the deadliest civil uprising in modern American history. This is the story of how Rodney King's brutal beating became the spark that set Los Angeles ablaze. By 1991, Los Angeles was a powder keg. For years, communities of color had accused the LAPD of systemic harassment, racial profiling, and relentless, excessive force. The department was infamous for its aggressive, tough-on-crime stance, but on the streets of South Central, many knew it simply as brutal. Tensions had been simmering for decades, just waiting for a reason to boil over. That reason came in the form of Rodney Glenn King, a 25-year-old African-American man on parole for a robbery conviction. When California Highway Patrol tried to pull him over for speeding, he panicked. Fearing a return to prison, King hit the gas, leading officers on an 8-mile high-speed chase that drew more than a dozen LAPD officers and a police helicopter into the fray. When King finally stopped, a local plumber named George Holliday was woken by the chaos. He grabbed his new camcorder, stepped onto his balcony, and started recording history. What he captured would expose a reality many refused to believe. King exited his car, unarmed. Witness Josie Morales remembered. He never moved his hands. Officers yelled through a bullhorn, "Pull over at the light or you'll get hurt." King complied, kneeling with his hands visible. Then, the assault began. An officer fired a stun gun, jolting King's body. Almost immediately, the batons came down, over and over again. King was struck more than 50 times with heavy metal nightsticks. Even when he collapsed, the blows did not stop. Dawn Davis, watching in horror, said he was face down and he wasn't fighting, and then they were still hitting on him. On Holliday's tape, King's pleas are audible. "Please stop, please stop." In the background, a woman screams, "Oh my God, they're beating him to death!" The brutal attack lasted for a minute and a half. It left King with a fractured skull, a broken cheekbone, and a body covered in burns and bruises. He survived, but the footage of his ordeal was about to ignite a firestorm. When the video aired, the public was horrified. For the first time, many Americans who dismissed tales of police brutality were forced to confront the undeniable evidence. The LAPD claimed King was resisting arrest, but the tape told a different, more violent story. 4 officers were charged with using excessive force. Then came April 29, 1992. A jury in suburban Simi Valley, with no black members, acquitted 3 of the officers and deadlocked on the 4th. As the verdict was read, Los Angeles exploded. For 6 straight days, the city burned. Entire blocks were looted and torched. The National Guard rolled in to patrol streets that looked more like a war zone. By the time the smoke cleared, 63 people were dead, over 2,000 were injured, and the damage topped $1 billion. It was the deadliest uprising the nation had seen in a century. In the aftermath, LAPD Chief Daryl Gates resigned. Federal prosecutors retried the case, and 2 of the 4 officers were eventually convicted of violating King's civil rights. King himself received a $3.8 million settlement, but his most remembered contribution came during the riots, when a shaken Rodney King stood before cameras and made a simple, heartbreaking plea. "People, I just want to say, can we all get along?" It was a desperate call for peace in a city tearing itself apart. That question remains hauntingly relevant today. Rodney King's case produced what many call the first viral video of police brutality, forcing a difficult but necessary conversation across the country. More than 30 years later, his story isn't just a piece of history explored here on Behind the Badge. It is a stark reminder of how quickly the fragile piece of a society can be shattered, and a warning that justice, when denied, can have explosive and devastating consequences. The final verdict wasn't delivered in a courtroom. It was delivered on the streets, in fire and in rage.